Good afternoon. Welcome to this Reducing Spreadsheet Dependency webinar. By way of introduction, my name is Dhruv. I'm part of the professional services team here at Tax Systems. Now, we're looking to cover a number of areas in this session. We will look at what's currently happening now, complex VAT requirements for certain organizations, and then I'll do a live demonstration of AlphaVAT, which is our end-to-end VAT compliance engine. We'll look at the submission of a group VAT return and also specific areas to do with partial exemption to include both the standard and the special method. Now, in terms of the current climate, most organizations are saying that they extrapolate the information to complete the VAT return from their accounting package or their ERP system. The information is then copied onto an Excel spreadsheet where manual calculations are prepared. And then every quarter or monthly, depending on your filing requirements, clients go onto the HMRC portal and effectively copy the 9 boxes. Now, going forward, phase 1, you need to use a bridging solution to port over the numbers to HMRC's portal. For single entities, that came into play of April this year, for groups in October. We've got approximately over 550 plus odd clients using our current bridging software. And in terms of phase 2, what the revenue requires is digital links from your accounting system to the VAT calculation spreadsheet. The reality is that the revenue are looking to move away from the manual calculations. And so AlphaVAT is a way in which you don't have to use Excel and you can use an end-to-end compliance engine. Now, in terms of what is happening next, MTD, as we know, will be extended to both income tax and corporation tax. The exact timeline has yet to be confirmed, but the expectation is that it will follow the same principles of quarterly reporting and digitalization that has been seen with VAT. Now, the concept of the spreadsheet challenges, we did a survey speaking to a number of customers asking about the risks and efficiencies with regards to using spreadsheets. And we had some interesting facts come through. In terms of errors, 88% of spreadsheets contain errors and broken macros. Auditors highlighted that spreadsheets as the single biggest cause for non-compliance. And lastly, this is something that has kind of come through from speaking to our clients. Spreadsheets have been evolving over years. People have been using legacy spreadsheets that may contain errors and difficulties with version control. And so using the solution should hopefully alleviate all of these issues. In terms of efficiency, we asked our clients what have been the main pain points with regards to collecting data. You'll see that 56% of tax professionals spend over 10 days on returns. 68% of organizations plan to use technology to reduce the compliance workload. And 75% of effort is related to the concept of data collection. And that is what we want to reduce. Now, again, in regards to the customer insight, we asked clients, where are the complex areas? A lot of it came down to the group consolidation, the partial exemption, capital goods schemes, reverse charges, and so on. We did a survey with the Accountancy Age in April of this year, and you'll see through these statistics some key areas. More notably, adjustments to include partial exemption of fuel scale charges, and just general amendments and error corrections are quite high in terms of the survey that we carried out. Now, an updated scheme, the Business Risk Review, launched 1st of October for the largest companies. HMRC are looking at various criteria. Having an automated system in place will greatly reduce the risk score. The ICAEW did a BIR snap roll. You'll see from the figures on screen that clients are looking to do something in the near future. Some were completely unaware of the BIR, but you'll see some of the stats on screen. Now, evolving the process for MTD and the use of spreadsheets. Now, I mentioned before about what's currently happening in regards to using the accounting software to get that information into your VAT calculation spreadsheet, where the manual calculations are carried out, and posting that, copy and pasting that into HMRC's portal. You'll be aware that for the soft landing period from 1 April, the revenue required you to use a bridge. Now, we've got something called AlphaBridge, and I mentioned this before. It's a HMRC API-enabled spreadsheet. It doesn't require any existing changes to your current systems or processes. It allows you to use spreadsheets, so nothing changes, and very much so it's the first step to MTD compliance. Now, moving forward, what we've introduced is something called AlphaVAT. So you'll see from the diagram that removes the need of having an Excel spreadsheet. The AlphaVAT engine, which I'll demonstrate next, will automatically create your VAT return, and you can do any sort of adjustments through the system. I'm going to briefly touch upon AlphaLink. So what that is effectively a solution where we can link to your accounting software, and literally a click of a button, that information can automatically pour into AlphaVAT. The demo that I'm going to show you won't have AlphaLink. It will be very much a download of a CSV file from your accounting system into AlphaVAT. But if you want any further kind of demos on AlphaLink or further paraphernalia, then please let us know and we can talk to you about that on a separate call. As I mentioned before, the key element of AlphaVAT is to remove the need of using spreadsheets. Now, at this point, what I'm going to do is give you a demonstration of AlphaVAT. Now, in terms of AlphaVAT, it's a web-based, cloud-based solution hosted on Microsoft Azure. You have two-factor authentication. So when you log in, you'll be asked to sign in using a password. A code, or you can call yourself, will be sent to your phone, and I'm just going to send myself the code now. Give it a few seconds, and what will happen is I will be given a 6-digit code, which will now give me access to the entity management screen. So to set the scene as to what this is, our entity management screen, you can add any number of entities. You can create folders. In this example, I've got a group situation, which I'll go through later on. It will show you where the folder is, the next obligation period, and the next obligation due. We have a user management screen, whereby you can add any number of users to the portal. A lot of licenses are predicated on a number of users, but we've taken the view that you can have unlimited users, and you can control the user role rights. So whether you want people to be submit only or a super user, totally in your control, and you can restrict access to different types of folders if required. Lastly, just on the admin side, we have a dedicated support feature whereby you can contact our technical support team. This is the same team that supports AlphaTax. And we've got various paraphernalia in regards to training videos and documentations explaining the MTD timeline. Now, if I go back to the entity management screen, I kind of want to set the scene as to what I've got here. So in this demonstration, I want to show you how AlphaVAT works. Now, before I do that, I did some work beforehand whereby I created a group where with member 1 and member 2, I used a bridging software to calculate the VAT liability. And with the representative member, I'm going to use AlphaVAT, the end-to-end compliance engine. So if I click into there, you'll see that I'll be introduced with 3 options, being the AlphaBridge templates or the uploads on the right-hand side, which is our phase 1 version of MTD, and AlphaVAT calculation, which I'm going to show you now. When you click into the AlphaVAT engine, you'll be introduced with a front screen whereby you decide whether it's a partial exemption, standard method in this scenario. We also have the special method, which I will touch upon later. Once you've decided the type of partial exemption, you go on to the next phase. Now, as I mentioned previously, we have AlphaLink. We can extrapolate information directly into AlphaVAT. If you don't use AlphaLink, then the best course of action is from your accounting system is to download a CSV file. And I've got an example of a sales and a purchase ledger. Now, this can be a number of spreadsheets. In this example, I've only got the 2. I load that into my system as such. Now, what that will do is you'll see it gives me my purchase ledger and my sales ledger. And if I click into the purchase ledger, you will see it gives me all the transactional data listed below. Now, in terms of that transactional data, if I wanted to block, let's say we've got some business entertaining, I can do so. So the input of that will be blocked. If you've got some intercompany where you want to exclude completely, you can exclude. Yeah. And again, this is just a few examples showing you what you can do with the transactional data. The reality is, if you've got a vast host of calculations and transactions even, you can search by a filter, and then you can block or exclude in bulk based on the filter. If I now go back, having looked at how you can block or exclude the transactional data, I want to map my data. Now, interestingly, the mapping process is a one-off. We have a VAT implementation team that help you with this. And the reality is, a lot of clients we spoke to said that data comes in different shapes and sizes, so one does not fit all. And so our VAT implementation will work with you, look at your source data to see how it comes out of your systems, and then map it into AlphaVAT. And again, as an example, if I wanted to add a filter to tell the system that anything that has a cost center beginning with T, so taxable, I can now look at the preview pane, and it will highlight anything with a T on screen. Similarly, if I follow the same procedure for the cost center beginning with exempt, so E, and the cost center for residual. Again, the preview pane allows me to look at anything with R. You can add a rule if need be. And what you'll notice if I scroll down this screen, there's a host of options for the mapping. This is very much dependent on your organizational requirements. So some of this you will not see if it's not relevant to you. If I look at my sales ledger and follow suit with the same procedure to say that I want to look at anything that has a tax code beginning with T1, and again, the preview pane will allow me to look at anything with T1, and anything with a tax code that matches T2. Now, once that's complete, you can look at the other options if they're relevant, and you go on to the next phase. So having mapped the rows, we're now going to look at what the columns look like in your transactional data. So you'll see these columns were what were in my source file. And so I tell the system the mandatory fields that I need will be the net and the VAT amount. And then I can follow suit and map the relevant fields below. Again, this is a one-off. You'll see it automatically maps my purchases in year one, and I do the same for my sales ledger as well. I would know that the more information, the more detail you want from your reports, the more detailed you want the mapping requirements to be. So when you do speak to our VAT implementation team, do let them know the level of detail that you'd like to see on the reports. Now, once that's done, every quarter, all you need to do is just confirm selection and run calculation. And so what this will do, it will look at all that source data, gather it up, and push it into the 9 boxes. You can see there's a progress bar. It works in 25% chunks. Approximately takes to about 15 to 20 seconds to run the report. And once that's done, you'll now see that the numbers flow into the 9 boxes. Again, if I highlight over the numbers, it will show me I can view these reports, which I'll show you later on. Now, we need to look at the concept of manual adjustment. The revenue said how do manual adjustments have a supporting calculation and whether it's done within the system. Really simply, within our system, we have an option for manual adjustments. If I want to add adjustment to box 1 and 6, I've got a date, the amount. I can give it a reason. I'm just going to put adjustment for now. You can add the adjustment. Now, because it's a digital adjustment, when you go back to the review pane, you'll now see if I look into box 1, it will show me that I've got my adjustment and I can delve further into the detail. So if you have multiple adjustments, we've seen on the system. Now, you notice that we're trying to build the tax logic within AlphaVAT. So again, if I look at box 4, if I want to view the input VAT recoverable, because I use a standard method partial exemption, what the system will do, it will look at the exempt and the taxable amounts and the residual, apply the relevant percentage, and it will give my recoverable amount. You'll see below I've got also the de minimis test as well. So a lot of the tax logic is inbuilt within the system. Again, we're following similar to AlphaTax, having that tax logic built there. This was a standard method partial exemption. An example of a special method you'll see on screen is where we've got 3 sectors split. 1 is done with a taxable over total, sector 2 is done by deal count, and 3 is manual. Again, the system will be able to deal with PESM, special method partial exemptions as well. Now, if I go back to the last page, do you remember at the start I said I had some, let's say, business entertaining, and I blocked those inputs. Again, if I wanted to see those blocked inputs, the system allows me to go to the granularity of that data. And having said that, that's the case for anything. If I want to look at my purchase taxable, when I applied the codes here, it came through within the system. And again, when I was mapping the columns, you can see date, tax code, description, other, net, VAT, gross. If you wanted to have more fields on screen, more detailed reports, you can do so at that mapping stage. We also will have return level diagnostics. So if there's any issues, that will be flagged up within the diagnostics. Now, if I go back to the home page and I go back to the group, as I mentioned before, member 1 and member 2 already completed using the bridging portal. I'm now going to mark this as ready to consolidate. So at this point, you'll now see that my group, you'll see the 3 members, and I want to consolidate the VAT liability into 1 return. So by consolidating the group, just give it a few seconds. You'll now see I've got a consolidated VAT return. You'll see a breakdown on an entity by entity basis from boxes 1 to box 9 and the submission method. And all that's left to do is to finalize and submit onwards to HMRC. Once that's complete, just give it a few seconds. You can check the payments and liabilities. So currently when you go online to the portal, you log in separately to check the payments and liabilities. The AlphaVAT Bridge portal allows you to check that. You'll now see that the VAT return has been successfully submitted. You can print the receipt. And once that's done, I'm going to go back to the slides just to go through a few more points. Now, what we did was we did a customer case study. We looked at a mid-sized wholesaler and with a network of UK stores across the country, looking at various things regards to their VAT compliance process. Now, the main ethos of this was to see the differences from the manual side of things to moving to a tooling solution, so moving away from spreadsheets into an automated system. Some of the results are really interesting because when we looked into it, they said that the time taken per quarter for general activities for the VAT return from start to finish was about approximately 37 days. In comparison, when they were using a tooling solution, the time taken per quarter was only 11 days. And again, some of these findings are listed here, looking at various areas, but the main kind of takeaway from it was the company said 26 days per quarter and 104 man days per year, along with the fact that there was reduced errors having using a tooling solution rather than a spreadsheet. Now, I know this has been a whistle-stop tour of AlphaVAT, but again, in terms of a recap, looks at the calculation engine, the data management side of things, looking at regulatory updates as well as automation and control. If there are specific questions that you have, by all means, do contact the sales team at Tax Systems, and we can run a bespoke webinar or a bespoke session based on your organizational requirements if need be. Again, thank you for your time, and do let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.